One of the themes of my existence as a professor of Italian American Studies is trying to get beyond the idea that Italian Americans don't know what they don't know. Now, it sounds like it's a play with words, but if you don't know that you don't know something, then it doesn't bother you. You can't have compassion for somebody else unless you felt it for yourself. And so many of the stories that our parents and grandparents went through never got communicated to us. Why? Because they stopped speaking Italian, they didn't want to talk about the bad things, they were in this country, they wanted to become Marians, and so don't speak Italian. These are all reasons why history, as we know it, never gets passed on to us. And in Branded, How Italian Immigrants Became Enemies During World War II, Lawrence DiStasi, the author of books like Malocchio, he edited a book called Una Storia Segreta, and he retells a lot of the material that we have gotten before, but he tells it in much more depth, and he gives you the kind of prelude, what was going on in America during the war, prior to the war, that set up the idea that we need to take anybody who's still an Italian citizen, a German citizen, and a Japanese citizen, and we need to protect ourselves from them. Very, very much what's going on today in terms of any of the Muslims in experience in the United States. That's why this book is so important. He talks about the government laws that were made, the policies, the ways that they were enforced or not enforced. He talks about the actual experience of what happened to the Italians who went into internment. But his last chapter is to me really the purpose of writing this book. He says, we have seen that 600,000 Italian immigrants were branded during World War II, both as enemies and aliens, each word bearing its own weight of condemnation and shame. We have seen that there were immediate consequences to this brandishing and the loss of various liberties, depending on how people were categorized. And he goes on, but what he does at this last chapter of the book is he shows us why this was a necessary thing to do, and in order to be able to overcome it, Italians had to assimilate. And believe me, Italians assimilated almost faster than any other group in the United States besides something perhaps like the Irish or the Germans. What he says is this, is that America is a cultureless society. It began as a cultureless society. Well, that could be debated, but the idea is that it has become a culture that depends on what is purchased in order to exhibit that culture. And what he does here, it sounds like it's kind of a Marxist approach to the criticism, but he really lets us understand why Italian Americans have erased much of their ethnicity in order to be able to become American. Because in order to become American, it wasn't enough just to you had to buy American. So being American equals buying American, buying the products that the American society says we need, you should buy, you'll be a better lover, you'll be a better worker, you'll be a better friend, you'll be a better cook, you'll be a better parent through purchasing. So he sees this as this shift from depending on the inner parts of culture that really make society wonderful, the kinds of things that you don't have to pay for, shifting to culture will depend on what we buy. So you might think it's like this kind of anti-capitalist take in it, but it really shows us that assimilation is about this. Can you fit into what we have here? And because these people didn't during World War II, there are stories there, but we never really knew these stories. There was never a film made about this. There was never a novel written about this. I mean, not to the extent where we had the novel and the stories from the Japanese, for example. I'm not saying in any way that this was the same type of experience in terms of duration, in terms of strength of effects on the people, but it did happen, and it's something that we have to thank Larry DiStasi for bringing our attention to and keeping this in the historical collective memory. Branded by Larry DiStasi, How Italian Immigrants Became Enemies During World War II. Get it, not just for you, not just for the past, but for the future.